Anthony Hopkins said, "We are fascinated by the darkness. We are fascinated by the shadows. We are fascinated by the boogeyman." He was exactly right when he made that statement, which is why the horror genre is the best genre of movies. Today, I'm going to explain what a horror movie is, the endless creativity the horror genre enables, and the psychology behind the enjoyment of fear. First, let's take a look at what a horror movie is. According to American Movie Classics film site, horror movies are unsettling films designed to frighten and panic, cause dread and alarm, and to invoke our hidden worst fears, often in a terrifying, shocking finale, all while captivating and entertaining us. Horror movies are fictional movies and generally can be split up into two categories, realistic and unrealistic. Unrealistic movies would include movies that have creatures or monsters that we all know could never possibly exist, but somehow still creates this just feeling of complete fear deep inside of you. Realistic movies, I personally think, are a lot scarier. They would include movies that are based off real stories, like The Zodiac, which is based off the Zodiac Killer, or other movies that might not necessarily be based off of true stories, but could have pieces in them that you feel could be true. An example of that would be the movie of Halloween. There are several scenes in the movie where the killer is within feet of the victim and the victim has no idea, or just right outside the window. When I see movies like that, I get a little more alert. Probably the next couple days, even in my own home, at nighttime I might peek around the corner, look outside, just kind of see, make sure everything's okay. They definitely scare me a lot more. Also, horror movies are just like any other movie, any other genre, in the fact that they're feature films, generally 2 hours long. But if you're a huge horror fan, you can go to your local video store, and you're going to be able to find a lot of really good hour-long horror films if you take a look. Now that we know what a horror movie is, let's explore the endless creativity that exists within the genre. Horror movies have no rules. There's nothing that keeps them down. There are a lot of cliches in horror movies. That's something that was highlighted in the 1996 horror film Scream, if any of you have seen that. In that movie, they talk a lot about horror movie cliches. Specifically, there's a part in the beginning of the movie where the character that Drew Barrymore plays asks who's outside, "Who's there?" And the response from him is, "You never say who's there. Don't you watch scary movies? It's a death wish. You might as well come out and investigate a strange noise or something." Those are two cliches of horror movies right in one. But since the goal of horror is to shock the viewer, there really can be surprises at every turn. Scream is another perfect example. Although they talked about movie cliches throughout the whole movie, they didn't follow very many of them. So it was a really good and surprising movie. This really leaves the only boundary of a horror film to the imagination of the creator of that film. It creates limitless possibilities. This actually has resulted in over 15 subgenres within the horror genre. There's too many to discuss, and they're pretty detailed, but I wanted to highlight that fact because it's absolutely amazing the variety of genres and creativity that the horror genre consists of. The endless creativity and the horror genre as a whole would be a waste if it wasn't for the fact that many people share a common enjoyment of fear. According to Dictionary.com, fear is a distressing emotion aroused by impending danger, evil, pain, etc., whether the threat is real or imagined. Now, you might be wondering, why would anyone want to feel that? Well, Lisa Fritcher, author of The Psychology of Fear, wrote, "The feeling of fear instills a biochemical reaction that creates a physical reaction. The physical reaction includes sweating, increased heart rate, and high adrenaline levels. The abundance of adrenaline leads to a natural high. The body feels energized yet relaxed, And giddiness and elations are common emotions associated with it, associated with fear. So to me it makes sense that people would want to watch horror movies to create and obtain that adrenaline rush that occurs. Now, knowing what a horror movie is, the endless amount of creativity behind them, and the level of enjoyment that it can create, it's no wonder that horror movies are so well regarded. Many of us travel through life on cruise control, in a rut of the day-to-day trivialities that are our lives. But when you sit down on a Saturday night, turn the lights down, and spend the next 2 hours on the edge of your seat because of the latest horror film, you'll truly understand what I mean about horror being the best movie genre. As the frightening images fill the screen and the adrenaline kicks in, you'll be reminded that when you are truly afraid, you are truly alive.